Hey friend, Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review, and boy is this a big box set that I'll be babbling about today. But before we get into all that, I want to ask you to like, share, and subscribe to This Music Alive, because that is kind of what we do here. I babble about bands that I like, what they're up to, what they're doing. People make comments on it, and we all have a good time. So if you're into that, cool. If not, I don't know what to tell you, because that is what we do here. And what we'll be babbling about today is the new Queen 2 Collector's Edition. And boy, is there a lot of music on this thing. It took me a while to get through this. There was a whole heck of a lot of music that came out this week. It's been such a strange year. You go a couple, 2-3 weeks with like minimal things coming out, and then you get a weekend like this where there's so much I couldn't even figure out what I wanted to listen to. So finally got through this one, 5 CDs worth of stuff, new remix, live stuff, bonus, demos, all kinds of stuff. So I was really into the first Queen album, what they did with that one. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I've heard comments on that one when I did that review that, you don't mess with Queen, it is what it is, you shouldn't touch a masterpiece. But quite honestly, I really like that first one, and this is not one of those albums that I go back to a whole heck of a lot. In fact, I hadn't listened to this album in like years, actually, and so it was kind of like a really fresh listen for me going back into this again. So I was very eager to get listening to it. So this isn't the first thing I grabbed out of the pile of stuff this weekend, but I knew it was going to be a lot, so I didn't want to start and stop. So I waited till I had a lot of time to go through it, and I've just been like listening to this thing for like hours, and a lot of music here, so like I already said. So it starts in with the 2026 remix, and I gotta be honest, I did not A/B it, but I can tell you I did really enjoy this mix. It just seemed very full. You had to do it with the speakers on each side sitting right there just listening to it. I didn't headphone it at all, but even the setup I have here, you could definitely hear the great stereo mix of it and what they did. I can't, like I said, I didn't A/B it, but it just sounded amazing. Really enjoyed listening to this again. Like it was like a fresh listen, and it's hard to, when they came out with Bohemian Rhapsody in the record execs and all that, they didn't want to put it out as a single and all that, and they were like, they just couldn't believe that they had done that. It's hard to believe that they didn't see this coming, because this album has so much of those elements in it, like I had forgotten. In fact, they were like more like that on these first 2 albums. They more theatrical, I don't want to say operatic, but very theatrical type style, grandeur and all that stuff. I don't know, I'm looking for words here to use to describe it, but it's hard to believe they didn't see it coming, is what I'm trying to say, because it's like just epic stuff, the whole album. Even the very first #1 hit that I guess they had was on this album, 7 Seas of Rye, which is funny, it's the last song on the CD. Not the way they do things anymore nowadays, that's for sure. But, even that song, which is very theatrical, became their first #1 hit. So it's kind of like hard to believe that they didn't, see Bohemian Rhapsody coming. But anyway, that was a fun listen. I'm sure there's not a whole lot I can add that people, Queen fans, if they know this album, I'm not going to already tell you. But the mix, I really enjoyed the mix. New remix, and they say remastered too. Of course it's remastered. If it's been remixed, it kind of goes without saying. So yeah, it's just funny when the people say that remixed and remastered. Well, yeah, no kidding. So anyway, after that, it was the stuff I really like to get into, and I did not do what I normally do. I usually just go direct to the bonus stuff, but because I hadn't really listened to this and it was a remix, I did listen to everything like in order. And I do have to say I really enjoy hearing the demo stuff, and just because I like writing songs I've written since I was like a very young kid. In fact, that's what I wanted to do before I even wanted to like play music and be in bands and stuff. I just wanted to know how to write songs. So for me, the like process of writing and what they go through and the different takes and all that stuff is super interesting to me. It's just one of those things that after I listen to it though, I don't often go back and ever listen to this stuff over and over and over again, but it is worth it to me to like hear it. So if you're a fan of the band and you want to hear that process as well, definitely worth a listen, because there's a lot of that going on here. And it's funny hearing they left up some of the banter in there, so you hear like Freddie talking about. I listen to Van Halen too, so I got Eddie and Freddie on my mind, and so you hear Freddie talking about what he wants done. It's a little banter, and actually Roger had some demos on here too, and listening to him singing these demos, and just, man, he's got a killer voice. If you ever listen to any of his solos, he's got a couple things he did just his name. Then he had a band, which the name is escaping me for some reason right now, that he did. And that stuff's really cool. And this guy just has an amazing voice. So this is like young Roger, like powerhouse vocals. And he's always had a very strong voice, singing this stuff. And just the different iterations of those songs. But they actually threw in "See What a Fool I've Been" was a B-side. Off of one of, I guess it was probably Seven Seas Rye, I actually don't know. And then there's a Not For Sale Polar Bear, which is a Brian May type thing, which is cool to have that on there as well. The only thing I didn't care for at all on here was CD3, which is just a bunch of backing tracks and instrumentals. And I don't know why they call some of these backing tracks and some of these instrumentals, because it's kind of like the same thing, but I don't know, maybe there's something I missed there. If they included background vocals in it, maybe they call that a backing track. I don't know, but didn't really find that too interesting at all, actually. It's like, listen to it, but I didn't really find that it added anything to this. I know a lot of people like instrumentals. I'm not one of those people. I like hearing what the band had intended as the song, and that if that included vocals, then that's just the way I want to hear it. So I don't get into that stuff, but if you do, there's a whole bunch of instrumental stuff here. Now, CDs 4 and 5 are where it was really at for me. Lots of live stuff, BBC sessions, and then there's a few live things here. Sorry, I'm fighting off a cold here, so I'm struggling not to cough through this whole thing. But in case you're wondering what I'm doing here, the BBC sessions were kind of cool, because you hear whoever the commentator is. I actually didn't check the liner notes or anything. There's quite a huge book in this, which I didn't take the time to read at all. Gigantic set, so if you're into like cool box sets, it's got all that extra stuff in there too, a big book. And I haven't gone through all that yet. I've just been listening to this all day. That's mainly what this is all about, is the music on here. I don't usually go into all that extra stuff, but if you're into that, this is a cool box set. It's got a lot of that extra stuff in there. But anyway, hear the commentator talking about what they're doing. The only thing I found a little strange was they would cut off what he was saying. It's like, well, why would you like let him say half of what he was talking about the songs and then cut him off halfway through? That didn't make any sense to me. It kind of got me interested in what he was saying about the band, and then it kind of fades out and cuts him off. So that was a little strange, but the performances were cool. It was at least hearing, Brian May's got a very unique guitar sound, and they actually pointed it out. The commentator did point it out. They made his guitar, which is part of the sound, but they do a lot of doubling and a lot of harmony stuff in the studio. But when they play live, obviously you can't do that. So it was very interesting to hear how they perform this stuff live, and somehow they managed to do it really well early on in their career like this, without all those extra backing tracks and stuff. I don't really know how they did. Maybe there were some backing tracks. I might actually don't know, but there was times I was wondering how they were kind of making it sound so full. But it was interesting hearing that, but it's still raw and live, and there's no auto-tune, there's no fixing stuff back in those days, so it's cool to hear somebody that talented, not somebody, but all of them are amazingly talented, and just doing like live takes in the studio, for instance, before this, and just how tight and great they were even this early on. So anyway, then we get to the live stuff, live at Golders Green Hippodrome, which was in '73, and they do several of the songs on here from Queen 2, and actually throw in Jailhouse Rock at the end, which was strange. I didn't really see the purpose of doing that. Maybe they just were trying to fill up time, but their version of it was interesting, I guess, but it wasn't anything that I really need to hear again. But it was fun hearing the live versions of those songs. especially when you go carry it on CD number 5, which is all the live stuff from March of '74. So the live stuff on CD 4 was all from September of '73, and a lot of this is doubled up. Like you got Father to Son, Ogre Battle. What else is doubled up on here? A couple things. Maybe that was it. But anyway, in particular, the one I was thinking of was Ogre Battle. Hearing the performance from '73 to '74 and how they had grown over that 6-month period, 7-month period, I guess, and what they had done in time. And I wanted to say that, yeah, you can hear how much tighter they got over time, but that first performance was so tight and they're so good anyway, there wasn't really a big difference between the two. It was, both of those performances are like very similar, almost, I don't know, say identical, but very tight. They definitely had their act together. And it's funny, you hear bands grow, like I was just trying to say, but they're so talented that they were just nailing it from the get-go. So anyway, that's the kind of point I was trying to make there, that they were just nailing it, and there wasn't really anywhere to go. They were already like killing it. So anyway, that was fun, and they actually ended it with See What a Fool I've Been as the last song live on that. So interesting way to end the whole thing was with that song live. So very, very interesting listen for me. I actually really enjoyed this. Lots of cool stuff. I don't know how much of this was or wasn't reissued before. Maybe some of this has already been out there. Probably should have looked into that, but as we all know, I don't do that. I'm always, just winging it. It's kind of like, I always try to explain this to people that maybe this is their first time listening to it. I try to make this like just sitting down, chit-chatting with friends and what we thought of it, not always knowing every single thing, detail about it, but that's where each other helps us out and fill us all in on what it is that we might have missed or whatever. But anyway, that was my take on it. I'm sure they'll be doing more. Maybe I'll feel a little different about the remixes when I hear some of the stuff that I've really listened to a lot. Maybe my opinion might change. I don't know. We'll see. But for now, I actually really enjoyed this. And until they redo, I'm sure they're going to keep going and through the catalog, and we'll be expecting some box sets from some of the more recent albums as time goes on. But until then, we will see you.